Hey everyone, how's it going? In this video, we're going to work on a few examples of figuring out trig functions based on given graphs. Now, in the previous video, what we did is we were given a function and we had to graph that function. But now we're going to have to work backwards using things like amplitude, cycle, period, horizontal and vertical shift in order to figure out what the function is based on the graph. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to say this is a modified sine function, okay? And you'll see in a moment why that's important. So if I call this a sine function, then let's find my amplitude. My amplitude, well, that goes from +2 to -2, it looks like, which makes my amplitude equal to 2. And then let's find my cycle b. Well, remember, cycle is how many times the graph repeats from 0 to 2 pi. So if I start from 0 to 2 pi, well, it's a little hard for me to figure out what fraction of the graph this is exactly. So instead of doing that, I'm going to take a look at the period, actually. And if we remember back to what the period is equal to 2 pi over b. And period is how much room it takes for the graph to complete one entire cycle. So if I see here, it starts at 0, 1, and then here it's at 4 pi 1. Well, here it completed one entire cycle, and it did that in a distance of 4 pi. So my period is equal to 4 pi. And that means my b value, if I plug it in, so if I set this equal to 4 pi, it gives me a b value of 1/2. Okay, great. Now let's look at our horizontal and vertical shift. If I look at vertical first, then my vertical shift, well, I go up 2 and down 2 from the middle, which means it's symmetrical. So I kind of take the middle point of that, which is 0, which means we haven't gone up or down at all. So I have no vertical shift. And now if I look at a horizontal shift, well, I said this is a sine function, and you'll start to see here how it gets a little complicated. So let's say my original sine function looked, I don't know, a little like that, let's say. So I can say maybe it got shifted to the left a little bit, right? It originally looked like this, but now it looks like that. So it got shifted to the left. Well, how much did it get shifted to the left? I can say it got shifted over 1 tick mark, and we see that 1, 2, 3 tick marks is equal to pi. So 1 tick mark is equal to pi over 3. So I got shifted 1 tick mark to the left. So that is my horizontal shift. So now if I write that out, I get y equals 2 sine 1/2 theta. And now since I'm shifting to the left, I'm going to have plus pi over 3 and no vertical shift. Okay? Awesome. Well, now let's think about it somewhat differently, though. What if, for example, instead of thinking of it as a sine graph, what if I think about it as a cosine graph? Now, let's pretend that my graph was actually a cosine graph, and it originally went like this. Well, then you could say that it actually got shifted to the right some amount, right? And let's kind of base our calculations off of that now. So what's our amplitude? Well, our amplitude is still to 2 and -2, so our amplitude is 2. That hasn't changed. What about our b value? Well, our b value stayed the same, right? Because it still takes us 4 pi units to go from one point to the same point on another cycle. So our b value is still 1/2. What about our vertical shift? Well, our vertical shift hasn't changed either, right? But now where it gets interesting is the horizontal shift. Now, if we take a look at the horizontal shift, right, I went from this point to this point. And what this corresponds to is actually a shift of 2/3. So, or sorry, 2/3 pi. So I'm just going to say that's 2 pi over 3. So now if I wrote it out, what do I have? I have y equals 2 cosine, and now I have 1/2 theta. Now since I'm moving the graph to the right, it's minus 2 pi over 3. And once again, I have no vertical shift. So this is another way I could write this same graph. So as you can see, based on whether I wanted to write sine or cosine, I could have taken this problem 2 different ways, and there's infinite other ways you could have taken it. Because what if instead of shifting it like this, what if I had shifted it back here like that? Well, that would be a third way of doing it. And you see there's so many different ways of doing it. There's no right answer. Well, there's no single right answer. So you just have to think about what's the easiest way of approaching the problem and then just roll with that. So I hope this video helped. Let me know if there's any questions, and as always, happy studying.